we are going to run, we are going to create a sheet in this file, which we want to work with. So I'll right click and create a new sheet. So you can always open an Excel, then you save it as, but me, I want to open it from here. So we'll just come right click new, then you look for Microsoft Excel sheet. It will come, then I'll say data modeling. That's how I'm going to call it. Data modeling, data query, and modeling. So here we go. This is the sheet we have created. So I'll go ahead directly, open this. So we begin from where we stopped last time. Last time we saw how we pick queries. So the first thing I told you is you have to make sure that you have a tab for data, and you have to check whether you have get and transform. If you have that, then you are able to use Power Query. If you don't have it, check you come to home or file, you go to account, you look at the Excel you're using. So for me, I'm using 365. For you, may you be using 2019, whichever. But make sure that if it is below 2013, then you can't use Power Query. So there are those who still have Office of 2010, 2007. So you can't use Power Query. But if you have 2016 and above, then you'll have the Power Query. So going back. So here we are going to get our data. We shall come to File, and this time I'll go ahead and say I'm picking this to a folder. So we can go ahead and pick a folder, or you can go ahead and start picking one file by one. It is up to you. Then another thing, when we come to these sheets of ours, when you check the properties, when you check the property of our sheet, they are all in CSV format. So why do we use CSV format? Still, it is the same, nearly the same thing I've explained to you. CSV format never saves formattings. You can't put a picture in a CSV file and you save it. That's why it will always handle low storage. It will always need low storage. If you can have too much data in a CSV format, and you have less data in a normal Excel, but this normal Excel with less data is huge in storage, or it slows down in opening than a CSV. So just take it from me. That's why most of the systems, when you download, they give you a default of a CSV, which is called comma separated version. So I'll go ahead and get, so since it is CSV, I can go ahead and pick it using text stroke CSV. So the moment I do this, it means it's going to open a prompt, which I will look for my file. I've put it here. And if I sort this from newest to low, oldest, this is it. Open that folder. Open that folder again for traders. We start picking one by one. I'll start from the top. We start with categories. So I'll click on categories and say import. When you're importing a CSV, it gives you less hardship to go with. You know, last time we first preview, we first select whether it is a table or not, whether it is a sheet, but this one opens automatically with the first or sample data, and they tell you that you can sample up to 200, but you can always increase it by sampling the entire data set. So this is the way how it looks like category. We are lucky that today the data we are dealing with, there is no cleaning. That's why last time we did a lot of cleaning for you to understand. So here we'll go ahead. There is nothing to transform. There's nothing transform here. So I will go ahead and load it. So the moment I load this, now on loading, now that's where a query may come in, but let me first transform data. I want to show you something in the Power Query editor. Now, the moment we load it, obviously it will pick the name of the sheet, and that name of the sheet will always be the query. This time we shall not change them. Those are the names we want to use. There's nothing I'm changing here. It has picked the formats right, the data format. Now, when you come here, last time we were loading this into a table. This time we are going to load it as a connection. So I will come to close and load, because we are not going to load all the 5 as sheets. We shall be doing nothing. We shall be repeating ourselves, like you have that data somewhere, and again you are loading it in this sheet. So what you have to do is load and close. Then it will bring this dialog. I will say this time I want to load it as a connection. Then loading it as a connection, what you shouldn't forget this time is to tick this, add this to this data to the data model. So I'll add it to the data model such that I have a capability of creating a model or a relationship between these tables. So we are creating it as a connection, and we are adding this data to a data model. So I will say, okay, it will automatically load. It will not load here in the sheet as how we have been loading it, but it will load here as a model. So the moment I hover on this query, it will show me this is the preview and all the details. If you want to edit, I told you last time how you can edit. You come here or you double click. And even it shows you that you have loaded 8 rows, which means if you went to that data and upgraded it to, you added like 2 rows, it will show you that now they have become 10 rows. So this time we have loaded this as a connection. That's why you see our table is still blank. Now we are going back. So we are going back to pick the same. So you can always do the same thing to go and pick a file. Then there is also an option of coming here to recent sources. Recent sources gives you an option to go directly to that folder. But since now this time we are picking just CSV one by one, we are not picking a folder. Recent sources may not be a purpose to this kind of linking we are doing. So we are going to go to this still CSV, and this time we are picking customers, import. So this is how it imports it. So now, when you pick the customers table, you see that it is not giving you the headers. It is giving you column 1, 2, 3, 4 going forward, which means now this one I have to first transform. So I will come to transform. The moment I come to transform, you see that this row number 1 is supposed to be our heading. So I did that last time with you, that we just come here to use first row as headers. Click on that, it will promote, and it will tell you that I've promoted the headers. And I've done the change type for you. Change type, it means that the system has helped you to change the data sets, the data types. So when you look at the data types, all this is text. Otherwise, we would be having ABC stroke 1, 2, 3 because it doesn't, Then when we scroll, the whole of this is text. We don't have any numero here. So we go ahead and upload this. Still the same thing, you're loading this as a connection. Don't load it as a sheet because we already have that data somewhere. We don't want to look at it. So we shall load as a connection. Make sure you add it to the data model. So go ahead and load that. It will load 91 rows. And there is something, I don't know whether you witnessed it. It was looking for relationships. I'm going to show you that the system automatically searches for relationship between your data. And when we go there, we shall find that it has got some relationship on our behalf, but which we shall decline and do it from the basics. So I'm going to continue doing the same for all the other files like this. Now, let me show you a trick, a technique last time I told you. When you see that you get something from very far and you need it like a shortcut here on top, you can always go to that function, right click on it and say add to quick access bar. The moment I say add to quick access bar, it is added here. So you see, it is from text to columns. So which means I just come and click here, it opens for me the file. So that is a way of increasing your productivity. Create access, quick access bars. Create shortcuts on your Excel, such that not everything you have to look for it where it is. So here we are going with the employees table, number 3. I'll load that. Then when we preview, it has picked the headers, right? Then I have nothing to do with transforming. So I can go ahead and load it directly from here. So you can go ahead and say load to, then to bring the other dialog box, this is going to be a connection, and okay, it will load that. So 9 rows. So we are going to do the same quickly because I've already created my shortcuts. Why not? So I have to do this quick, but if you feel like you have a question to ask, please go ahead. So the headers I've picked, right? You always look at the headers if it is in CSV and you have nothing to change. So you can go directly and load this. And look at these numbers. They are already aligned on the left, on the right, sorry, which means they are already configured as numerals. But if they were on the right, you know that. We talked about that in our first sessions, that is text. So I'll go ahead and load this to connections still, and boom. We have loaded another table that is order details, 2,155 rows. The same thing, orders. I'll be quick to this. The headers I've picked. Now, when I check here, my dates are aligned on the right, which means the dates are picked right. My numbers are aligned on the right, which means they're picked right. So there is nothing I'm meant to go and do in transforming data. But you can always go there for the start to just be familiar with the Power Query editor. So I'll go ahead, load to connections like this, like that, boom. Now, if there is anything we shall ever want to add, you can always double click on this query like this. It will open it in the Power Query editor, like so. So you can add anything or you can edit anything. In case you forgot you loaded it and you want to go back and edit some things. So you can always go back and edit. So you see all my dates are picking right. So here, now, there is something I'm going to show you. When we reach in Power Query, there is something called column quality. You see, we find this in view. When you come to view, this column quality is not always unchecked by default. Let's check it. Now, when I check it, it will always add a quality row here. It will always tell you that in this column you're dealing with, you have 3% of the empty rows, 97% are valid, errors you have 0. And when you look at this, it tells you that you have 21 rows that are empty. So that's when you'll ask yourself, why is this date empty? Obviously, the date I'm looking at as a base date is order date. And order date, everything is valid. When it is required, everything is valid. But when it is to be shipped, some of them are empty. It means that they haven't given the dates of shipping. So at the procurement level, you have a column like this where you haven't aligned with the supplier when the shipping is coming. Either you'll always have a dummy date or you'll always have an empty date. So you take that into consideration, which means when we reach analyzing, you can create even a visual showing the shipments you are sure of the date 809, and there are 21 shipments I'm not sure of the date. That is also part of the report. Someone else can require that report on a daily morning. So, but here, before even we go to the visualizing bit, Power Query is already giving you an analysis or the quality of your columns or your data. It will tell you that, my friend, you have 2% of errors. You have to deal with those errors. How do we deal with the errors? You come here and say remove the errors. To remove all those columns, all those rows that are picking errors. So there are other options here. You can remove empty rows. If I don't want to deal with any shipment that I don't have a date, you can come and remove here the empty rows. It means I will lose those 21 transactions from my analysis. I will not have them. If it is a purpose that you don't want to deal with anything that doesn't have a shipment date. It depends on the report you're running. If you have errors and you feel like these errors, I'm aware how the errors are picking, remove the errors. But if you are not aware of them, keep the errors. It may be part of the reporting that we have these transactions picking errors. Maybe it is an audit or a quality report, a quality assurance report. So that is something I've hinted on, which we didn't look at last time, but now you know. So that's what I wanted you to know. So I go back home and load this. It is already loaded, which means when it is already loaded, you just close and load. It will close and load here. Now, we are still picking our files. They are supposed to be 7. Okay. Now we have just picked orders. We are going to products. So this is it. It is picking. You can even look at your quality from here. It is picking the headers right. It is picking the numbers on the right. And that is it. Maybe if I have to add some other columns or I have to edit somehow, but if you don't have anything to edit, just go ahead and close and load to a connection and make sure that the data model is, the data is added to the model. So 77 rows added. So I'll come to here. Okay. I don't mind we are using an hour to do all this, but it is more essential to the next sessions we are going to, that is Power BI. So here, now here, that's where you have a challenge, where I have to go there and remove these blank columns. Now, do you know that, do you know why these ones are picking? They are picking because this sheet is sensing that I went there and used this sheet. Remember when I was counting the length and all that bit? That's why you see it is counting these -1, -2. It is counting the blanks. So here I have all the mandates to go there and transform it first. So transforming it, it means that you see these blank columns. Because I used some part of them when we're doing an analysis of counting this, that's why they are appearing. So I'll click on this up to the last, and you can right click and delete, remove columns. Last time I gave you 2 options. You can select what you want, like this. You right click and say remove other columns to remove the others, like this, remove other columns. After that, I want to remove these bottom ones. How do you remove the bottom ones? You come on remove rows. Last time we were removing rows on the top. This time we are removing rows at the bottom. So the moment I say remove rows at the bottom, they will ask me, how many rows do we want us to remove? Then when you look at the quality before we remove, the quality is already telling us that you have 2 rows empty. Do you need them? Actually, I can come here and say remove the empties. It is also an option. It removes the empties. So you can use whichever whichever solution you want to use. But remember, that option I've used is just filtering out the others. But if I never wanted to do the filtering, you can go ahead and remove your rows from here by remove bottom rows, and you say I want to remove 2 rows at the bottom. In case when you count them, like there are around 1,000 rows you want to remove, that's when you use the other option of remove empty. But now I know them, I can go ahead and say remove 2 rows. You see now this one deletes them for good. It doesn't filter them. So there are those 2 options. You can always use them depending on the data you're running. So I'll go ahead now and close and load. Close and load these 2 connections like this. Excuse me. Okay, Now, by a look of things, we already have 7 queries. I hope you're looking at the 7. And when I go to my data, I had 7 data sets. We call these data sets. Just when there are many and you can't define them, you call them data sets. So here now we are good to go. You have done the first step of querying your data source. Now imagine we had another customer we have got. It is just a matter of go to that data set, add the line of that customer. It will automatically update. So which means if that customer starts doing the supplies, the sales, it will automatically pick with the dashboard you will have created either like 2 years ago or 2 months ago. So that's now we are fulfilling the first ask we had here. The first question here, there is something they were telling us that make sure the dashboard should be built to evolve and accommodate new data over time. So which means if you build a dashboard from these data sets or the queries we have created, you can always go and update. It means when I go to one of the customer and change the contact, it will automatically change with all the data ongoing, even maybe the past. So I think that we get it right. I'm pinging back to this query because you'll always have a problem you're dealing with. Let's not assume that you'll always sit and think about what you want to do. You'll always have a question that comes either from the business or comes from wherever it is coming from, asking you to do some things. Okay, in the chats, someone is asking, where do you find the view quality button? This is on the view icon. Thanks. Thanks, Samuel. I think, Timothy, you have the answer. So maybe to the other people, maybe who have not got it, when I double click on any of the query, you come on view tab. The view tab, it's where you find the quality, column quality. Then there is even profiling, but let's look at one by one. There are some things I can tell you even me I have not used because maybe the data sets I've dealt with, maybe they don't need them. So let's move step by step. Don't activate everything because you'll just get confused. So always, if you feel like even the column quality is taking up your space, you can always go and remove it by checking it off. So that is it. I told you we looked into this, the transform, we looked into the adding columns. We shall do the same as we go forward. So now here we have our 7 queries. So we have taken exactly an hour, I can say, to do the queries, but it is the value holds. So I'm going to unmute and ask any question before we proceed to Power Pivot. Anyone asking a question?
Burning question. Thank you. I got lost at that point where you downloaded the 7 queries differently instead of combining from a folder, like we're adding each file separately.
Okay. Thank you, Susan. Susan is asking that why have we gone ahead picking here one file by one rather than me going for a folder and I will have the whole folder and use that option. Why I didn't use the folder, this is the reason. In this folder, every file is independent from the other. We use a folder when you, last time we used it, when you're picking files of the same format, like I'm coming to this folder and all the files that are there, I'm going to filter out, let's say, if I open like this, you see, it will bring the files like this. When I go to transform, where it will bring me the cluster of all the files in that file, in that folder. Then I have to say, I want to combine this, this, and this. Then I first hide this one. That's what we did last time. This time, every file is independent from the other. I think you have seen them. That's why we first opened one file by one. So that is the reason why we can't use folder, because folder will necessitate you to combine. Still, you can use the folder, but you'll be doing a lot. You'll be, let's say here, selecting category only, then you come click on this, delete other columns, you remain with this, then you click on combine, and now what are we combining? Yet it is one. Still, it will pick for you. So when you click on combine, it will bring another dialog box where you have to look at the preview, and this is the preview we saw directly last time. So when you do OK, it will load that file, but you have gone through a lot. So use the functions right. So I will cancel this, and I will discard what we had done. So that was answering the question Susan asked. I know even if she hasn't joined, she will find it on the recording. That's why I waited for the recording. Now, the next part, guys, I don't know whether there is any other question. Actually, I'm inviting more questions because it is more understanding than us rushing to finish this session. Any other question? Anyone who is perturbed, like there is something that I will not find in the recording, you ask. But if you feel what you're asking, we have already done it, you can find it in the recording. For the time, because we are out of time already, we have 1 hour, you can find that on the recording. Okay, now the next thing we are going to do, we want to connect all these files because they are supposed to be connected if we are to start using them. Now, before we start using them, let me give you a scenario. Here, I will rename this. Let me rename this as analysis. Now here you can go ahead and start analyzing. Let me try out one. When you start analyzing, let's say when you go to insert, and I say insert a pivot. Now this time, when we say insert a pivot, we don't insert from a table because we don't have any table here. We say insert from an external data source. That's why we're adding these sources, these data sets in a model. So when you say external data source, it will ask you a connection. So I'll click on choose a connection, then you all have all your files here. But when you choose a connection, you see you're only choosing one. So when I open this and I say put it in an existing file, which is here, then I say okay. Oh, sorry. This is, let's pick a right one, this. The data source reference is invalid. This we picked location existing. Let's put it on a new. Okay. So when we put it on a new, you see that they have only loaded for us only one table, and we want all these tables to be loaded here. And as of now, we can't get those tables, which means if I want to start creating, which means I can pick the company name and put it here. I can pick the values and count those companies. But this data doesn't give us any sense of using it because there's no metric we are picking from here. That's the same thing I'm talking about. So I'll go ahead and delete this sheet. Was just showing you that it doesn't make sense using any of these independent from combining them. Now, combining them, this is the option. Option number one, you'll go to data. We have an option here. You see this icon in green. It is called Power Pivot window. So you can always pick it from here, or you can pick Power Pivot from the tab directly, which is this. Now, those who don't have Power Pivot window on your in your Excel, go to File, go to Options, then look for add-ins, then on the Manage Add-ins, look for comms. I'm just doing this such that it is a recorded part of the recording. Then No. I'm not meant to do okay. I'm not meant to do add-ins. Then we look for comms. Then we say go. The moment you say go, you'll always find Power Pivot here, and it will always be unchecked. Let me first uncheck it. When I uncheck it, mine will disappear. I imagine now I'm like you. So activating it, you go to options, you add-ins, you look for comms here, then you go, then you come and activate this by checking or enabling the checker, then you do okay. Just a moment, my Excel is acting stubborn. Okay, we check this and okay. Don't check the others. Anything you don't use or you're not going to use, don't bring it in front of your eyes. So just do okay, and here it appears again. So that's how you activate the Power Pivot. If you don't have it here, then you can come to data. You'll always find it under data here, under data tools. You activate the Power Pivot. If you don't have it here, then you can come to data. You'll always find it under data here, under data tools. So if I click on this, it will always open the query window. Now, when it opens the query window, note this. This is not an Excel. It is Power Query Editor or a data query editor. So when it opens this window, you see you can't add anything here, but they are giving you an option here of adding a column, which means you can add a column here by either calculated column or any column you feel like. Now you'll see that all the other tabs, all the other queries will run at the bottom. They look as if they are sheets like how you see sheets always, but they are not the sheets you see because this window is a Power Pivot window. Let me minimize it such that you can look at it clearly. Okay. So you see this window is an independent window from the sheet itself. So I was minimizing it such that you can tell that it is independent from the other one. So let me maximize it again. Now, there is an option of seeing this using the data view. Because this one is enabled, that's why we are seeing it like this. The moment we disable it, which means diagram has to be enabled. It can't be disabled when this one is not enabled. So I always love using the diagram view. Here, creating relationships, it is something that will need expertise. You'll come to design and you start creating relationships when it is in this model. So when I say create relationship or manage relationships, I don't have any relationship created. So when you start create a relationship, then you start with, okay, categories. I should relate it with what? Now you look for something else like product that has a category ID. Then this and this, they are related, which means I can say, okay, and that relationship will be done. But I will require you to do this when you gain more expertise using Power Pivot. But always for beginners, and I say beginners because nearly we are all beginners. So we shall not use this option. We shall always come here on home and activate the diagram view. The moment I activate the diagram view, this is the way we look at our view. So there are many tables there in that line. They have put themselves in a line, and now we have to start looking out how to align them. Now, we have two things. We have fact tables. Actually, I was creating notes for you guys here. Let's look at now here. Let me put this in now. You see, this is what we need to achieve. This is what we are looking forward to achieve. And this, you see that this is example of our data model. It is in diagram view, which allows you to create connections between tables easily. Let me add the word easily. So that's how we create tables. And we looked at that. I was just showing you the relationships. So that's what we are going to go for. Now, when you look at the Power Query Editor, Okay, this is what we are, it is practical based. Now, we need to rearrange these tables one by one. So I will rearrange these. I will pull this customer, put it here. Now, the table that always updates on a daily, pick this. The table that always updates on a daily, we call it a fact table. The table that you can update even once in a year or once in a month, we call those tables dimensional tables. I repeat it. A table that updates on a daily is called a fact table. The tables that update, they don't usually update. Like this category ID, when will you ever create another material code? We always have codes created when we have a new item or a new material on board, which is even after 6 months, there is new cement. So, which means this table, even people can forget on the way how they create materials. I know we have been tussling always with people, materials created with errors, because people forget how to create those materials. But things you create on a daily, orders, trips, scheduling tracks, that is something that you can't forget. And anything that, where that data goes, that data set is called a fact table. Now, I'm going to put all my tables here in line. I want someone to unmute, and you tell me which are fact tables and which are dimensional tables. We have 5 minutes.
Chris,
you can put it in the chat if you can't unmute.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Order details. That one I think is under fact.
Okay. Then the others, because you have to
then something to do with category ID. Category ID, I think it's not fact. It's the other one of once in a. I mean, the one under having category, don't having categories.
Let me first emphasize that you can look at all the items there. Maybe it can give you a hint to tell which one is a fact and which one is a dimension table. So here we are looking for fact and dimension. Now let me give you a hint. Any table that has a date, it updates easily than the others. That is number one, which means the table that has a date is number one table, that is a fact table. I put it aside. Someone had commented, order table is a fact table, right? So order details, it can be fact, it can be dimensional. You're right, Joseph, but it depends on the data we are dealing with. The data we are dealing with, the order details, it gives us, in other words, also on the other end, this one also will be updating regularly. Then the remaining ones, they are things which you can never update when you join a business until when you leave. So these stand to be now fact tables. Now this is the way we rearrange this. Now always, you either put the fact tables on the top and put the dimension tables at the bottom, or you do a star. I know you're going to do a continuous reading on this, or you do a star. You put, if it is 1, you put it in the middle and put the other ones aside like this. Like this, and you put this in the middle. Then put this aside like this, and that one will become a star. Sorry. I've clicked on something which I have to undo. Actually, I have to delete this hierarchy because It was not meant to come now. Now, so this, I can also have it either on top or I can have it here on the side. Because it is semi-fact, semi-dimensional. So you can always reduce the size of your canvas you're working with to make sure that you capture everything right. So you can always go ahead and reduce this. Now, let's start we are starting our relationships. Now, when you check the fact table, it has IDs, which we call foreign keys. Then the dimension tables, it has IDs, which we call primary IDs. In other words, when you go to the category table, in the category ID, you'll never find their repetition. Then here in customer ID, you'll never find their repetition. We can never have two transporters in the system having the same code but different names. Never. If it happens, then it is in error. So that's another way how you can tell what is dimensional and what is fact. And when you go to read in details, those are the things you're going to find there. So shipper ID, it is a primary ID here. Employee ID is a primary ID here. Order ID is a primary ID here. Now, because this one has two IDs, at some point it becomes a fact table at some point. Because this one has two IDs also, it is more updated than the others. So we have seen that this one is the major fact table, but these two, they are also having two IDs which speak to, one is a foreign key, another one is a primary key. This is a primary key, this is a foreign key. Why is this one called a foreign key? Because it has another table it is in where it is a primary here. All this one are all foreign keys because they have their independent tables where they are primary. I think you get this right. Then I'm okay if I arrange my table like this, then I put these below. Still, that one is also fine. But I'm doing this with a sense of what I understand with data modeling. What we are doing here is data modeling. Then another person would have put this in the middle and put all the other ones around, like what I started with. Now, let's start doing relationship. This is the way we do relationships. Now, you see this shipper ID. You're going to drag it. You come and drop it on top of the shipper ID in shipper's table. The moment you drop it there, the relationship you should get should be having a star here and it should have a 1 here. That relationship, we call it one to many or many to one, but it is one to many. When I double click on it, it will show you the relationship that, by the way, you connected the orders table using the shipper ID, you're connecting it with the shippers table using the shipper ID. That's what I told you would have done when you're an expert, but for now, let's use our drag and drop. So this one, I'm very certain that it is correct because it is one to many. The moment you will ever do a relationship and it brings a star here and it brings a star here, then you're wrong. You're very wrong. Because it means that these shipper IDs are appearing many times here and also appearing many times here. Now let's go to another one. Employee ID. I will bring employee and drag it there. One to many, I'm okay. Then customer ID here, I drag it and bring it here. One to many, I'm okay. And actually, by the way, you'll never find customer ID in another table because they are managing, optimizing the storage in the database. You can't find again customer ID in another table. You can find it there, but it is rare. So now you see this category ID with category ID here. The moment we merge this, it shows us this is one here, there are many. Now, when we come now to this primary, which is merging now with this. When I merge it, it shows me now it is one to many. I'm verifying. Then what is remaining? This order ID. This order ID, do we have order ID here? No, we have to look for order ID because we have to make sure the order ID.
Yeah, it's there on top.
First one.
Yeah, order ID, order ID. Now,
Even
do you know
employee.
that we have created a circular of data? We have modeled this into a circular. Now, let me go back now to my basics. Do you know that this table is supposed to be in the middle? These ones should be at like this. This one should be on the sides like this, like this. That's what we call data modeling. The moment you do this, you have done another step of data modeling. And data modeling is something that you can fail. You will do your querying, but the moment you can't understand your data, you will not model it. So bringing it in relationship to the data we use, you make sure you'll make sure that you have a material table. Only materials, unique IDs. That is one table. You'll make sure that you have transporters table. Only transporters ID unique. You'll make sure that you have sold to table. Different unique. Now, the moment you bring here your HODIM, you bring here your SAP, you bring here your logon. When you start visualizing, you can pick an order from SAP, you come and pick a quantity from HODIM. You go and pick a customer from SAP, you pick a product, a material from logon, because your data is connected. That's what we mean with data modeling. So guys, if you have any question, ask before we proceed. I'm pausing for this. Just appreciate what we have done. Ask any question, but this is it. Now, when we go to design and we go to manage relationship. Yep.
Are there times when we have many-to-many relationships?
Yeah, many-to-many works, but it is always sensitive when you're using it because it means that at some point you'll have data duplicated. So, and even when you're doing in data analysis, you always given a discipline that you can always make sure you get rid from many to many if it exists, or create another table that can give you the uniqueness. You see how you have the SAP data or HODIM data. Remove only two columns, the material code and the material name. Put them on a side, remove duplicates. Let it remain a table on its own, such that it will become a table like this, which has an ID and its name like this one. Such that you don't have that scenario of many to many. Because when you tag the HODIM report and match it with logon report and match the material code or the item code, you're going to have many to many. But you know what it means? You're going to have challenges when you start visualizing. We shall see those challenges when we reach Power BI. You'll see that when you drop like a field in a table, it gives the same values for all the parameters. And there you know that I messed out in modeling. But me, I recommend for the start, when you expertise and read more about this, you'll see how you can always capture this when you're analyzing data. But for the start, when you're dealing with data, make sure here you have start to one or one to start. And here, this is I'm managing relationships. You can actually delete them from this side. Let's say if I delete, what should we delete? Table one is products, category ID, and to products, this is category ID this. The moment you click on this and you say delete, like this line will go off automatically. You see it has gone off. That's how you can delete, or you can right click on this. I will show you. When you right click on any line, it will give you a delete option. You can delete. So let's create now using this wizard. So if I want to create here a relationship, what have we deleted? It was in products. So I'll come in products. It will pick automatically the category ID. Then we come to categories. It will pick automatically the category ID. So this and this are linked. Then if you want a relationship to be there but inactive, you can always remove this. So I'll say, okay. The moment I say okay, it comes back. But this time I've used the wizard. That's why I said you can use the wizard or you can. So here you can edit by editing. If you want to make it inactive and I remove the active and I say okay, you see it will give you a dotted. You see a dotted, meaning that it is not active, which means at some point we shall reach in data visualization, we shall not be able to pick this relationship. Why do we make this one inactive? At some point when you start getting errors, like you have said, Timothy, and you have many to many, you can always come and first deactivate the many to many. Then you see how your data is breathing. By not deleting this completely, because we have hustled to come to this stage. You will not need to delete it, but there is an option to deactivate it. It remains there, but deactivated, which means the next day you can come and edit and activate it. So here we go. So guys, that is it. I know today 90% of us have seen something new, but it is all about practice. And this is what we call data modeling.
Chris,
any other question before we?
I wanted to ask something.
Yeah.
In this table of on the top right, we only picked product ID and we drew a line to product. We connected it to product ID in order details. But again, we have other things like unit price, which are in both tables, and other tables have similar things, but we didn't connect them. Why?
So why didn't we connect this unit price and this? Because this unit price is for the order, this unit price is for the product. So we haven't gone in details whether this price is the products we bought and here we are selling. That's something also we have to take into context. You may actually, that's why we have a dictionary. We are going to go back to the dictionary and we look at those two scenarios. Thanks for bringing up that question. So anything you have to make a relationship, it has always to be an ID. It has always to be speaking. You don't have to look at the headers or the names of the fields and you just connect them. No, that's not the way how it works. You can imagine I may be having order ID here and here it is named something different, but I know that this order ID correlates with, let's say, how can I call it? Let me say product ID correlates with item ID. Though the names are not the same, but they correlate because I've looked at that data and I've understood the data, how it syncs. Now, when we go back to our dictionary, did we open our dictionary? I remember we had opened it here, data dictionary. So when you look at data dictionary, in order ID, we have unit price. In order details, unit price. There is this unit price. Let me give it a yellow color. Then in products, we also have this unit price. Now, here they are telling us this unit price, the price per unit of product at the time the order was placed. USD discount not included. This is the current price per unit of the product. So an order may come in, the order came in last week. By then, we had not increased the price over the weekend. This time the price has increased. So product will always have, I don't know whether Rachel is here or Susan, you have heard about price list. So a price list is created in the system. We change prices always. But when you change a price, it doesn't mean that the orders that came in before, the prices are going to change. They don't change. Now, these are the two things that depart them. Why do they depart them? Because they are seated in different tables. This, when they were booking an order, they picked this price. But over the weekend, you change the price. A product price will change. Like today, someone has gone and changed the price from 200 to 300. This price will be 300 of the same item here, it will be 200 because here the order came in when the price was 200. But we are going to reach a point when all these orders are dispatched and they are no longer in the system, which means everything that comes in new will pick the new price. That's how it is. I don't know whether I've explained it better, but just think about it. Any question? I want to use 30 minutes for us to look at a few things in how our data looks like. Then tomorrow, we shall come well geared up to just do a few recap of some things that we shall have missed out, and we introduce Power BI. That is tomorrow. So if you have always waited for Power BI, don't miss tomorrow. But still, you should have not missed from last week, because all what we are going to do in Power BI, we started it last week. Okay, so I'll go ahead and save this. So we are saving our model. So I'll go ahead and save this. The moment it saves, then you can go ahead and close it. So this was Power Pivot. So the moment I close it, let me enable this. Okay. So the moment I close it, it is as if nothing happened. You see the sheet we had, nothing happened. So, but when you come to the connections, this is our data model, no, not that. When we come now to the existing connections, we shall find that these tables of ours are connected. Someone was calling me. Sorry for that. I'll put this in flight mode. I'll first complete this. Okay. Now, this time, let's go ahead and create, when you come to pivot, Power Pivot, let's first look at Power Pivot. We have manage relationships, which you have already looked at. If you don't want it in data view, this is data view. You can always go to diagram view. So it toggles between this and that. We have looked at that. Cancel this. Then we have creating measures. We are going to see how we create measures this time, but we may not see that today. It may come in tomorrow. Then there are KPIs. If you have any KPI you have created, it will be there. You reach a point where you create KPIs, targets, and all that bit. We shall have that. We may not do it in these sessions, but you'll find it somewhere, but know that it exists. So if you want to add data to a data model, you always select the data you select, then you say add this to a data model. It will always be added to a data model. Then here on detecting relationships, if you want to know that your data has relationships, you say detect relationships. It is going to run and it will tell us that you have these relationships, of which we have already looked at them, and we are the ones who have created them. Sorry for the hanging, but we can use such a time to ask some questions. You can put anything in the chat in case you can't unmute. Okay, we can't detect any relationships, or for this section, select the pivot. Okay, that will come in later. Now, we also have settings. If you want to do some settings, extension, for now, we leave out this because it is something that does with the diagnostic when you're doing quality assurance for your data or relationships. This data model you're looking at you will find people have created a report that has more than 40 tables, and everything is just confusing. Like you see the other lines, like everything is a confusion. So those people will want to look at Power BI. Let me show you what is in Power BI. Nearly the same thing on data modeling. It is nearly the same thing, but with Power BI, the interface obviously is different. Any questions? As Power BI opens. Now, this is a report I have with a certain client. Sorry that it has recorded on this call. So I wanted you to look at a data model I created for this. You see, there are how many tables? There are around 10 tables. So you see how the lines are confusing here and there, but they are not confusing. They only confuse if you can't read them right. But the moment you read them and you understand that where I always find a one, this is a dimension table. Where there are many, this is a fact table. Where there are ones, this is dimensional, this is dimensional, this is a fact table. So you can easily always move into someone's data model and you tell this is dimensional, this is fact, which means this person is updating this table, or it has more duplicates of a certain ID than the other one has. So that's how it is. That is in Power BI. So we shall reach that point. So it is nearly the same thing we have in Excel. That's why I'm telling you exactly what we are doing here is what we are going with in Power BI. So now let's go and do some bit of analysis. We see whether it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, what we have done, does it make sense? That's the question. So when you always come to data, you can add pivots. No, let's go to insert. So if I come to insert, then from data sources, or you insert from a data model. Now, since we have already created a model, you know the other time we are inserting from a connection, and a connection you only pick one file, which is not connected to any file. This time we have a data model. Now you also tell the reason why every time we are picking queries, we are ticking the other check of add to data model. This is the reason. What we have done previously done modeling, and now what we are going to is the reason why you tick a table to be in a data model. The moment you tick it, you'll never find it in the other in this mapping you have. You'll never find that table there if you didn't tick it. So you can always go back and check it, then it will appear. So here will come, insert a pivot. This time I'll say, insert a pivot using a data model. So I can pick where this pivot, I want this pivot to be. Last time I told you, good practice, leave one column, leave one row on top. So I'll do okay. Now, the moment I do okay, you see now the magic that is happening here. All these tables are appearing here because we have already connected them. We are not worried. I'm not worried that I will come to the customer table, I pick the customer name or the company name like this. Then I go to another table, order table, this, I pick the quantities like this as values, and it will pick the values very well. That's the reason why we did the modeling. Now here I'm already dealing with two tables, different. Then you can go to the shipper like this and right click on this ship and insert a slicer for this shipper. So when you do federal shipping, it filters this table. This slicer is from a different table. This sum is from a different table. This data is from a different table, the names of the customers. So that is the reason why we do data modeling. Every database you see, it is always developed, engineered to make sure that it does this. That data you run from SAP, from Hodim. Actually, the data from Hodim, I've already analyzed it. I once analyzed it. That data you download the daily dispatch, like tracks that you have loaded out from morning to evening. It comes from 57 tables. In the back end, you don't know. Someone sat down and did the engineering. That is his job. We call those data engineers, database engineers, or data scientists, who are different from data analysts. What we are doing here, we are doing more of data analyzing than we are going to the databases to make sure that how data communicates. So you imagine the report you download with not more than 12 columns. It comes from 57 tables, which means the ship 2 has its own table, the customer ID has its own table, the transporters have its own table. Even that unit of measure you see in your report time has its own table. Now, when you bring in automation, it becomes worse because automation added like around 20 tables on that report. So I'm trying to pick for you a picture on how our data runs in the background. So someone who has done Power Query, someone who has done data modeling, every time you download a report from a system, in your mind, you should know that there are around 5, 7, 20 tables where this report is coming from. So whenever someone tells you on the development side that, you know what, we have a challenge, we can't download reports because there is this problem and this, take it because that's what happens in the database. So that is it. So we can go ahead here and analyze. We did pivot tables. I will not do much with pivot tables, but I wanted to show you how it becomes sweet after you have done data modeling. Then something I didn't show you last time. Okay, before that, when you open the pivot table fields, you'll see, you realize here we have now 2 tabs. There is one tab that is for queries and another tab is for pivot tables. So if you don't want to look at this tab for queries, you can always go back to data and uncheck it here. The moment you uncheck it, it will disappear. But if you want to edit any table in the Power Query editor, you have to go back and check it like this. Then it will reappear again. Here it is. So this, it is for pivot table fields. You also know how we can remove this by going to pivot and analysis. You come here to field list, you uncheck it. It will also disappear. So if I uncheck all of them, they will disappear. And someone will say, the data or the sheet you have given me is empty. It has nothing. But when we run this sheet and look at its, let's look at its size at the moment. It has 738 kilobytes, which means it is not empty because we have loaded it with connections. Now the difference, why we loaded connections, is also to manage storage. Now imagine you loaded all those sheets as tables. Would be having here like around 3 MBs. So we use connections when you are sure of the data source, that the source where these tables are, I know where it is, no one is going to delete it. But if you are, you know that someone may delete it, bring them as tables in this sheet and analyze them from there. I think there we should be fine. So I enable these again, go to data, enable the queries, go to pivot, enable the field list. So you can go ahead and create as many tables as you can. You're going to create charts and all that bit. You can go ahead and do that. So which means here I can have a pivot table. So if you click outside, which means the option for pivot table disappears, which means you have to go back to insert, like this, then you come to pivot table from data model. If this is something you're going to use 10 times, just add it to the quick access here. You can always even remove them from quick access when you're tired with them. Add it here, just click where you want it to be, just click here, it will bring this, then okay, it will bring the data model, here it is. Now, if we want to look at the freight costs for these shippers, I will select this. Now, in case there are many tables, selecting is going to become a problem for you. You can always even search here. You can search here, what is the shipper name, that is company name. So if I type here company name, I will have two company names coming. One company name is for shippers, another company name is for customers. So I need this. So I'll drag this there. Then you also search, we search for freight. So it will come. Searching is very easy when you have done data modeling, because we have around, when you go to the dictionary, you'll see there were around 30 fields, 40 plus. So scrolling those every time is tedious. So you can always pick from here, put it in values. So you see here, we can always easily look at this. So those who are not available in pivot tables, we said if you want to change this, you come to number format. We make this a currency, and this is dollars. We can come and pick a dollar, English dollar. A dollar in Canada, a dollar in Australia, they're different, but for us, we need a symbol. We don't need to know where it comes from. So here we go. These are dollars. So which means federal shipping, you'll spend that. Express shipping, you spend that. So you can go ahead and use all the techniques I showed you in pivot tables. You can come here on design. Sorry, on design, then put this in tabular form. Then you can even go ahead and have this as a chart. Insert a bar chart. So the moment I have that, you can go with a bar chart here. There we go. So we have already a bar chart. I remove the buttons. By clicking here, you come and remove the buttons from here. If you want, you can come add the data labels. Here we are trying to see how do we use that data after we have done everything. Since I have data labels here, I don't need this, I will delete it. Then I don't need the grid lines, I will delete them. Then what else can we do is expanding this. Now you'll check that when I right click on this and say format data tables, data series like this, it will open for me. Now they become 3. We have this for queries, we have this for a pivot, because this is coming from a pivot. We have this for the data series format. So I can increase the gap, actually reduce the gap like this. You can go ahead and do all the other dynamics. Feel free to do whatever you want. Then take like this in your dashboard. So last time I didn't show you, if you want to create a dynamic name, you can always click here. Susan was asking, but my table is not linking. If you want to link this to anything, like linking it to, let's say, federal shipping or company shipping, you can come here, always put equals, then click where you want it to link from. The moment you enter, it will bring that name here. So the moment I change this name to vessels, it is dynamic in your charts. That's how we make dynamic titles. You can have a sheet that has only titles, like you have your titles put across, like you keep linking to them depending on how you want everything to be done. So that is the purpose of why we had to do data modeling, because you realize that these shippers were a different table, this freight was a different table, totally different. Now I can make it funny, then come back to the pivots here, remove the search I had. What should we search now for? Let's search for, okay, let's search for, let's say, country. Yeah, let's search for country. Now you can pick any country, but this country is where the users came from, the staff. This country is where the customers come from. So I can right click on this country and make it a slicer. So the moment I make this a slicer, it means that if I click on Australia, it will change. For all the customers who are shipping from Australia, these are the freights. Austria, those are the freights. Denmark, these are the freights. Brazil, those are the flights. Portugal, those are the flights. You'll have created this on your dashboard. So this is just a hint to show you the value of what we have done for the last 1.5 hours or 2 hours. Okay. I know a lot is to be done, but guys, it is always practice that makes perfect. I'm going to share with you this raw data. Actually, I don't even have to share with you. I've already given you a link where you have to download it from. Download that data, play with it. You have Excel. Play with it, ask me questions when you're stuck. I've seen people sharing screenshots. That's a best practice in this period. By going forward, that group will stay maybe for 1 month, maybe for 2 months, to make sure that people pick up with what we did in all those videos. I know we have like 9 videos. You're not going to watch them, all of them at the moment. So even if you watch the video in a week's time to come and you find something confusing, practice it, bring it on that group. People will come to support you. Those who will have, because that's even what I like. Put a question, people start fumbling on how we can answer it. So if there is any question or something you feel like I've not touched, please, you can go ahead and unmute, ask me. But I will not go in details of how to create pivot tables, how to create dashboards. We did those. That's why now we are strictly looking at the purpose of modeling and querying, which was our topics today. Someone else asked to ask a question? Any question?
Chris, supposing you had forgotten to make a connection, maybe one table, how is the easiest way to find out?
We are just going to forget a connection now. The connection I'm going to forget is the connection between freight table, actually freight table. Let's go back. So I'll go to Power Pivot, go to Manage. I said I'm not going to use data view for now. Let's use the table view. So where is the freight table? We have freight here on orders. Now imagine that this ship ID and this ship ID were not connected. I'm removing this. So when you right click on it and delete, I will delete this model. Now the moment I delete this and save and go back to my data. Now you see what I was telling you. It is giving you the same value, which is the total freight for every freighter, because these two tables are not connected. Actually, even I promised you to tell you this. And Excel, being that it has that Intel sense, it is going to tell you that, by the way, you're missing a relationship and which we have detected. Can we detect this? The moment I say auto detect, it is going to run 100% to tell you relationship detection done. One relationship has been created. When I cancel this, it has automatically gone back to normal. So you see that everything is already connected. Even if you missed it, you can tell in future that I missed it. And that's what I told you last time, that you'll drag a field, you put it on a pivot, you're analyzing, and all the values will be the same. It's good the question has come through, and here you testify. So any question?
Chris, once you, let's say you deactivate the link and you remain with the dotted lines, does it still pick the values in the pivot table?
Good question also. So we are going to right click on this. We say edit relationship, or even mark an inactive is here. So when we mark this inactive, so it is marked inactive already. Let's save this and we close. So automatically it's not in the play. That player is a substitute who has not gone in the playground. So which means he's not playing. But you brought him on substitute in case someone gets an injury, he's available to play. That's why we said that you're not deleting it. You not leaving a player in your home country, and you come with a player in the for the match, and he sits on the substitute bench. This is what we are doing. We didn't delete this, but we deactivated. So the moment the one on play gets an accident or an incident, we come and mark this active. The moment we mark active, the 11 players will be good to go, and the play will be fine. I think I've explained it in real life for football, so you can understand it better. Creating measures, which is this. Creating measures here, we can come and say, create a new measure. Then you say this is going to be total freight, total freight like this. But measures will come in our other session. So sum, then when you say sum, it will drop all the tables. Then you look for freight. Where is freight? I'm looking for freight. It is in which table? This. So when I sum that and do OK, it will create now a calculated. When you come to shippers, where is the, sorry. So let's put total here. So when you put total, you'll see that in categories, actually we put it in categories because it is the one that was open. You'll see for it, when you create a visual, sorry, a measure, it will always be calculated with an FX like this, which means if I came and said, create a pivot from a data model and came and say, and click there and okay, this is it. Now, this time I want to just use total like this. So you can pick the whole of this. No, I'm still undo. I have to select here. Then total. So you can pick the whole of this and put it in values. So the moment you put it in values, see, this is the same as this. But what I've done here is that this one is calculated. So in case you don't have any calculation now, let me say that we needed this total to be a bonus. Let's edit this measure and call it a bonus. A bonus to the freighters, and the bonus they will get when this one is multiplied by 0.05. That is 5%, right? And I say, okay. Now, you see, this is the total bonus we shall pay off, which means now I can come to this table and I add their bonus by starting bonus, and I come and add bonus here. So it will add the bonus, which means this one is getting this is getting that. And I can also put this in dollars to make sure that you keep everything aligned. This is dollars, okay. And there we go. So you can easily tell that Federal Shipping is having this bonus, and automatically the bonus even picks on this sheet because it was done using this pivot. Because I've added something on the pivot, automatically it picks here. So here they are asking me auto detect, manage relationship detection, done. No. So I don't want to go that side. So the other thing you can do with Power Pivots, it is creating measures. So, but still, even if you don't create measures from that side, you can always create measures from here. So because this one is picking on a category, so if you come to, you click in any of the pivot, you can right click on any of the table like this and say add a measure. The moment you say add a measure, it will bring you this box and you add your measure. But the syntax of where we add measure. Now, Susan, last time I had you telling me that you don't have distinct. Now, this one, when you go to Power, here you can do distinct count. So you can have distinct count and you look for what are we counting. Let's count the customers' names like this. And the moment I close this, then you can always check your DAX whether it is right, it will give you a tick. The moment I put anything and the DAX is not right, when you check it, it will tell you that the DAX is not right. So you can check it, it is right, and I go ahead and I okay this. Oh, I have not put the name. This is distinct counts. So I think that is it, distinct count. So I've created a measure of distinct count. So if I want to put here instead of bonus, I want to count the customers we have, because it may be only just a lone number. So you'll say distinct count, which is this always has an FX. So you'll bring it here and remove this. So which means here I'll say these are customers. Now, those who did with us dashboards, you remember we created a lot of search because we needed to put this in a scorecard. So when you're creating a scorecard, someone can tell in your report that you have 91 customers. And the good thing with this, that when you pick out any country, let's say country for customers, and you create it as slicer, you can, when you slice it, tells you in Argentina there are 3, in Austria there are 2, in Belgium there are 2, in Brazil there are 9, in Canada. Like this slicer is working for something we have just calculated, and it is not attached anywhere. So I think, guys, we shall call it a day today. Maybe if there are no any other questions. I know we have had a lot.